So this is obviously an unbelievably messy storm. And I think the folks have been working pretty much around the clock to get to where we are now. And folks have made a lot of progress, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. But obviously this has been a huge inconvenience for a bunch of folks, and I'm glad that this will all be done for all intents and purposes before Halloween.
Are you pleased with the pace at which it is going, that is moving about as quickly as you think it could or should have?
Look, I drove around and checked out a lot of the damage down here, both on the Cape and on the South Shore on Thursday, and was it Wednesday or Thursday? It was Wednesday. And as I viewed, the damage was pretty intense. I mean, you had a lot of places where you had very large trees that were literally draped across power lines, and you also had roads that were out, and you had these guys have replaced 150 poles. I don't know how many are on the National Grid side, but this was clearly a big storm, and when you get up to 85 or 90 mile an hour gusts, it does a lot of damage. And the thing I'm most pleased with is both Eversource and Grid said they'd be back by the time we got to midnight, plus or minus, on Saturday, and it looks like they're going to get there.
There's always a post-mortem. What kind of questions will you ask? Lessons learned in the response, that sort of thing?
I think the biggest question I'll probably ask, which means I'm not exactly waiting, is what should we be doing with respect to trees and natural habitat generally? This is always a complicated issue because it involves a lot of private property as well as public property. But I think in many respects, when you look at how much foliage there is down here on the South Shore and how far a lot of these lines go through that stuff, are there things we could be doing to try to deal with some of that? But again, when you're dealing with 80 and 90 mile an hour gusts and 45 mile an hour sustained winds, which is pretty much what this storm was about, it's going to take down a lot of stuff, and it did.
Do you think the state prepared for it about as well as they could in advance of this storm?
I think I think we were in pretty good shape to begin with, but obviously we'll take a look and talk to the utilities about the things we can do going forward to make sure that we limit the damage. And we live in New England. This kind of stuff happens. The most important thing for me was that we get people back as fast as we possibly could.
Do you have any sense of what, if any, impact this might have on tomorrow night?
I think at this point our expectation is tomorrow night should go pretty much according to plan. Both Eversource and National Grid have said they believe by midnight they're going to be in a very good position with respect to those that were out. And since they started with 700,000 power outages on Wednesday, that's a pretty significant accomplishment given the amount of damage they had to clean up along the way. But I think our goal all along, and we said this to them at the very beginning, was we wanted Sunday to be Halloween and for kids and adults to be able to enjoy it as they should be able to. Let's face it, it's been a long time since anybody's had what we would describe as a normal Halloween.
Thanks, everybody. Chief, do you mind if we, Mr. Q,
Yeah.
do you mind if we ask, are you comfortable with Halloween tomorrow night? Are you concerned still about any limbs or down power lines?
Sure, we're always concerned. I mean, I think parents need to be with their children. But for the most part, I mean, Eversource, our town DPW, public safety, police, and fire, will make sure that the children in our community are safe. We want the kids to be able to celebrate. Eversource has been great about guaranteeing we get power back, substantially by 6 o'clock tonight, and we're hearing that they're right on track with that, and I really appreciate that. Certainly, our residents in Marshfield appreciate that. It's been a long, hard 3 or 4 days for folks, but the kids are getting excited and looking forward to Halloween.
Even if power is on, though, there's still a lot of limbs and damage. Are you looking at streets and saying maybe not?
We have patrolling the streets. DPW's out. We're relying on neighbors and people to go out, check the areas, make sure there are no widowmakers. If they see them, to notify, call 911 so that we can get it on the list. We can get DPW out there and we can get rid of those limbs.